All right, it's episode 72 of Sluggo. I don't know what happened to the intro. 72 weeks in a row, I have screwed that puppy up, but here we are anyway. Ready to talk football. Casey the Beef Cregan from Living the Island Life, driving the golf carts, driving the ladies on the island wild. Zach Locks Parker.
Just one lady.
Yeah, just one lady. Zach Locks Parker driving the golf balls wild. Locks, I haven't heard you any golf stories lately. Have you been on the shelf?
I've been on the shelf. I haven't played since middle of October. Believe it or not, yeah, it's been about 4 weeks, which is a long streak for me. So it's okay. It's okay. A little time off, rehabbing. We'll be all right.
Never heard anyone. And John Chancey chimes in first of all and says no rave.
Rave.
No, there's no rave because I don't know what happened to it. I swear I uploaded it and then it wasn't there. So I don't know.
No intro needed for us. No
intro needed. And, what would this show be without me screwing up the intro? That's just the way it goes. Beef, what's happening over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, no, it's the same old here. Living the island life, like you said. Just it's crazy, man. It's cold as hell in the morning, and you bundle all up, driving that golf cart, first world problems, over to the boat, and then in the afternoon you're shedding every piece of it because it's warm and you don't need it. So it's like Antarctica in the morning and Florida in the evening.
I think I told you a couple of weeks ago. That's what Parker says. He hates this weather because it's like 45 in the morning and 83 in the afternoon. So he leaves here all bundled up and comes home, in shorts and a t-shirt. So you're not the only one who hates this weather or likes this weather. Hey, I wanted to talk about feeding the vets real quick, and if I can find the right thing here, I got it. This was a rousing success. I have you two gentlemen to thank for helping me getting the word out. We raised 25% more than last year, so they're going to eat good this year down at the VFW Hall in Kyle, Texas. Nelson Wilhite, very generous contribution. Rob Schreiber, everybody who contributed. You two gentlemen, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad to see Rob chimes in and says, Casey, props to SHB for going for 2 at the end. Locke, sorry for encouraging you on the Utah pick. And we're all sorry for Locke. I encouraged him on a Tuesday night pick a couple weeks ago, and it didn't go so well. And Rob Schreiber, great news. You won the drawing. You had 15% odds to win. You won the drawing. You will get 4. Let me see if I can do it right. Casey, yell at me. 4 Sluggo coasters. Drop me your address in the not in the comments. Drop it in the on the social media, on the Instagram, the Sluggo Instagram. I'll get those mailed out to you. Anyway, really appreciate that. Big awesome success. I don't know what we're going to do next year to top it, but we'll see. Yeehaw.
And Rob, before I want to chime in about SHP, the quarterback fell down. They ran the Philly special, had it wide open, and the quarterback fell down. So they could have beaten the number 2 team in the state playoffs, but it's awful. Anyway,
that sounds like this could be This Week in Clips of Football. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that yet. And speaking of This Week in Clips of Football, congratulations, Rob. Speaking of This Week in Clips of Football, Clemson and Connecticut, I don't know how much time we want to spend on this. Just an ugly, ugly game. It was 44-7, and you still came away feeling kind of dirty, nasty, grimy.
Dirty, that's what I thought.
I don't know what it is, but the injury situation is just totally out of control. If you look at somebody, they get hurt. And so I don't know, not a lot of takeaway. The ups and downs of DJ again. He throws one in the dirt, 100 miles an hour from somebody 6 feet away. Then he throws a beautiful touchdown pass. Who knows what's coming? I mentioned to Nelson, though, I did want to say this. Nelson and I were chatting back and forth. I mentioned that I think Tyson, if he's healthy, should see a series or two, just as he did, to change it up. I mean, he obviously adds an element that DJ can't, right? I mean, the running. So maybe you should just put him in there to change it up. I'm not saying he gives them the best chance to win playing the full game. I'm not saying he's better than DJ. I'm just saying they need something on the ground from the quarterback, and he seems to have it. Casey, your take on Connecticut, Clemson or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, the one narrative that I've read all week is that Clemson couldn't run the ball against a woeful UConn rushing offense, and I'm in full agreement. But what people don't understand too is that two of the three-headed monster didn't play. There was no Will Shipley, there was no Kobe Pace, so it was a lot of Phil Maffa and a ton of Darian Rencher. Taking nothing against that, both those Shipley and Pace have both shown glimpses. Obviously, Maffa has as well. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in the fact that Clemson couldn't run the football against UConn. Yes, you have to. It all starts at the offensive line. I understand that they didn't get any push, but who are we putting? I say we. Who is Clemson putting at the offensive line at this point? You're missing Backhorst. You're missing Pollard. You're missing. I'm probably wrong there, but you're missing that. I think Dabo said last night that there's only 6 guys available this week on the offensive line. Yeah. So it's going to be a mix and match, and it's going to be a mash unit. But I don't like the narrative that was going. I heard it from local people on Twitter. I heard it from national people on podcasts and radio shows that Clemson couldn't get any push against UConn. But Pace and Shipley, and to have all 3 of those guys, because Maffa is very he's good when he's got his other 2 guys that are also running as well, because they're completely different running backs. So I don't take a lot away from the game at all. It was hard to watch at times, as I think all of us spoke about how hard it was to watch that game. But they got to rest up, heal up. Mash unit that's on the bench probably saw the last of Justin Ross in a Clemson uniform, and we'll see. They're 4-point favorites at Wake Forest, or at home against Wake Forest. The 33-game winning streak is on the line.
Wow, hard to believe it's coming down to this. Locks?
Yeah, I actually just saw before we came on, TigerNet said that Justin Ross told Dabo that he is committed to go to the NFL. So, last time in the uniform after he got hurt too. Sad to see, but what do you do? Had been 100% all year is also what Dabo was saying earlier in the week. So hopefully, he gets healed up and can start training for NFL. But look at our last 2 quarterbacks. Marty, like you said, get a running quarterback in there, and it changes the entire dynamic of the game. So I agree. I mean, I think this is going to be a tough test to keep this winning streak alive at home. And why not mix it up? Especially if DJ goes into one of his, just crazy streaks where he starts slinging it out of bounds or into the dirt, like you said, just mix him in, whatever. A couple plays, a series, whatever. What's it going to hurt at this point? I mean, get some experience, get some reps against a real team too. So
I think that's what hurts in this offense is that RPO that Clemson has been known for with Watson, with Trevor Lawrence.
Sure.
They're doing none of that right now. They're not doing the run pass option. It's they're doing the slow mesh, but there's no pass option in that at all. I think Tyson Pumachan gives you that element as well. That easy passes. If they're saying that he doesn't have the great arm that DJ obviously does, you have those easy outlet passes, the passes that would go to ETN for 70. They can go to Shipley and Pace for 70 now too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think Dabo mentioned it, and I kind of latched onto it this week. He's missing he being DJ, is missing the layups, right? The 7-yard passes, maybe not 70, but that turned into 12, 15, 16 yards. Instead of being a first down, it's now 2nd and 10 again. Yeah. And you can't run, and your line's not any good. And
but we were saying that in our text last week.
Yeah.
And even the announcer caught on to it too last week.
Yeah.
Those layups are now 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 10. And that, I promise you, would make all the difference in the world. Yeah. It has to. It would have to. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just it is it's ugly, and then sometimes it's beautiful. I mean, Mac. I think I've used this one before. Mac Brown used to say that when Texas would win ugly, he said sometimes you got to hug ugly, and besides the flashbacks I had, it's sometimes you do, and we've been hugging ugly all year. And, man, it's been a tough, long, strange trip, as we said a few weeks ago. But it hasn't just been a strange trip for Clemson, folks. Florida gave up 52 to Samford. Texas loses to Kansas. Washington fires Jimmy Lake. I lock in Virginia Tech and Miami this week. The next day, Miami fires their AD, and the next day, Justin Fuente gets fired. And I don't know, just a bizarre and wild year to think. How many points did Florida give up by halftime? 42, maybe? To
I think
Stanford?
so. Yeah.
It's crazy. And Texas loses to Kansas for the second time in 5 years. And they were back in September. I think they were 4-1. But I sent you guys the text showing the teams that Kansas has beat more than once in the last, 20 years or something?
Yeah, something.
There's like South Dakota State, Montana Tech, and the University of Texas. What a crazy year. Locks, whatever you want to talk about out of that group or something else, knock yourself out.
I mean, I'd like to just say, is it a little strange that Virginia Tech cut loose Justin Fuentes when, I was reading about it too. If they had waited until the end of the year, they would have saved a pile of cash on it, I think.
$2.5 million, I think, they would have saved after December 10th.
I mean, is there smoke? Is there a fire burning we don't know about? I don't know. It's just, why get, I don't know.
It's your boy down there coaching Louisiana, supposedly. I heard on a podcast they want to be the first one in line
to jump in line. Okay.
For Billy Napier, supposedly. Now,
yeah.
Who knows if that comes true? It seems like he would get he's be in line for a bigger job than Louisiana, like right up or down. I don't even know where.
I don't know either. I know what you mean. Yeah,
LSU, I think it's down. LSU. Yeah. So
yeah, I read Lincoln Riley is just getting a dump truck full of cash sent him from LSU. Same thing too. So it's that time of the year. You like to see it wait a little longer for some of these guys, but yeah, I understand why the ADs are doing it, just to jump in front. Get first on the carousel, gets first pick. You don't want to wait until the end and end up with Will Muschamp like the Gamecocks did a few years ago. So sorry, my fault. It's a ricochet shot.
I think one of the things that's going on, and it may be a trend, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week. I don't know if I cut you off, Box. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
But the Texas Tech, the Baylor associate head coach that went to Texas Tech early, I think that's part of the reason that Fuente's gone early too, is that somebody said, Danny Cannell, I believe I listened to this morning, and he said, he brought up a great point. They're not going to do this, but he said there's a guy right now sitting at home in Fort Worth, Texas, that could come to campus tomorrow and start recruiting for you. And they won't go after Gary Patterson, but it's, he was let go early. Fuente's going to get a job somewhere too. He was very successful at Memphis. He's going to get a job. This coaching carousel is going to be a lot of fun, I think. And there's going to be, I believe this might be the year that Clemson loses not one, but maybe two coordinators.
And that's okay.
I don't know about the defense.
Right, not the defense, but I'm just saying change is inevitable, and we've held on as long as we could, and it's not going to be the worst thing in the world because we're going to get someone really good, I think, to fill whoever's shoes it leaves. So, it happens in the NFL too. The voice needs to change sometimes, and that's okay. So I'm optimistic, which is right.
Sometimes you need change, but I would hate to see Brent Venables
I agree.
On. And I even wonder about Tony Elliott. The history of the Clemson assistants, though it's not a lot of them have gone, it hasn't worked out well for Chad Morris or Jeff Scott. Now Jeff Scott's got a little bit going on there. They're playing a little bit better, but still they're 2-8, right? Looking at 2-9 and maybe 3-9 or 2-10. After last year. One of the ones that, it kind of surprised me, but kind of not because of what happened on the field the other day, but Jimmy Lake get fired at Washington, 13 games. Remember, he only had 3 or 4 last year, and he didn't even make it through this year, and he's gone. And they're paying him the whole thing. They said it wasn't for cause. So, legally, technically, it wasn't about what happened on the field with the player. 13 games, and that dude is gone, and they're paying him, probably wasn't as much as some of these other guys, but they can't wait anymore, or they don't want to wait, right. And they are firing guys mid-season and one guy after 13 games. Crazy.
It is. It really is. It is crazy. But this carousel, the trickle down is gonna be there too. So guys that take these jobs, I think after USC and LSU get filled, Jason Priester brought up in the comments about University of Florida. Is Dan Mullen going to get axed this year? That's a huge job too. So Miami might come open. I mean,
Yeah, that's
there's
looking
some.
inevitable too with the AD going, because that was always the deal, right? If the AD stays, he's
Right.
safe.
That was his guy. Yeah.
Later.
Well, yeah. Apparently, he didn't want to fire Manny, so they
Right.
fixed that real quick.
Well, the good news for Manny is that it looks like Temple's going to be open too, so he can now go back to Temple for a second time and coach his first game for a second time.
He won't be in the ACC, and I won't pick on him as much. John Chansey, early signing period influences timing and coach change too. Virginia Tech's break on the buyout was the day after early signing day. Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought, and I heard, I know what he's saying about the buyout, but like I said, I heard on a podcast, it was a reputable podcast, and they were saying that they believe it's because they wanted to be first in line. All these other teams, Washington, TCU, et cetera, and Texas Tech's already got a coach. Right. So they're trying to get in line. Everybody's trying to get in line for the next guy. Okay, wanted to do a quick rant, fellas, because I already ranted on this last week or a couple of weeks ago about stats taking over the college football world. Look at this. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee continues looking foolish while defending its actions. I need to take that comment down. There you go. And that one, what's going on? Oh,
all of them.
Better.
One's better, yeah.
While defending its actions with baffling answers, set aside watching the games. This is from the chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, the guy selecting the teams. Now, this was regarding Michigan State being ranked ahead, or Michigan being ranked ahead of Michigan State. Set aside watching games. That's certainly a part of it, but statistically, in just about every category, offensively and defensively, Michigan comes out on top over Michigan State, he said. Again, it certainly is understood and considered that Michigan State beat Michigan, but at the end of the day, the committee decided that Michigan is still needing to be ranked ahead of Michigan State. So basically, what happens on the field doesn't matter. Let's just look at the stats and go with that. I mean, I'm over it. Right. I still use them occasionally on some things. I use them on some of the bets we're going to look at and talk about in a minute. That could quite possibly be the stupidest statement I ever heard. Now, I understand there are parameters around that. If a 2-6 team beats a 8-0 team, they shouldn't be necessarily ranked higher. That's a whole different category than what we're talking about. We're talking about 2 one-loss teams, one that beat the other, and they're looking at stats to decide which one should be ranked higher. Locks, you got the floor.
I think this committee, from the first layout that they put out in the first week of rankings, has really lined it up and set it up to where they don't have to do a lot of work. Watching the games is so BCS. Exactly.
Good one, Chansey.
That's a great comment. The way they've laid it out, they're just making it so they don't have to make any decisions or do any work. They've set it up to where literally, if there's maybe 1 or 2 upsets, Notre Dame in the 8 or 10 slot that they're in could end up in the top 4, because you got all these teams that could get knocked out, or someone's going to beat somebody. We know that. Michigan State could get beat by Ohio State. That's going to clear them out, so they don't have to worry about any of this. These disagreements that are going on right now. Cincinnati can be left out in the cold, or Cincinnati could even lose in the next 2 weeks. You got the Big 12. That could all shake out easily, or they may not even make it too. So Oregon has a really tough game this week versus Utah also. So, and Georgia's going to have to play Alabama. So if things really go on the path that they should, they're not going to have to do much work or make many decisions on this thing. So they're just kind of letting it ride. And obviously this guy's talking in circles. You can see that.
Just a horrible thing to say. I mean, even if you're doing it, you don't want to say it,
I wonder if they draw straws on who's the head of the committee. Is that appointed?
It's
Because
appointed.
someone has to speak at the end of every one of these shows to Herb
Whoever
Krieger
gets the
or
short
whoever.
straw.
It's like, oh God, okay, I
Gary
guess it's
Barta.
me this year. It's just not an enviable position to be in, I don't think.
Not at all. Beef.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I might have a different approach to this year than I've had in the past, and it definitely is correlated to Clemson not being a part of it. This is fun, man. This is really, really fun. All the talking heads. One thing that I want to rant a little bit about to pile on your rant is Notre Dame. Notre Dame gets the benefit. That's right. Benefit of not playing in a conference championship game. I saw a bunch of banter, and friend of the show, Powell, has been because I follow him and he tags me and everything. I see a lot of his stuff. A lot of the ND guys are trying to make light of conference championship games, and I get it. With the ACC in the past has been Clemson versus 4-loss Duke, but this year Alabama is going to play Georgia in that SEC championship game. Oregon may play Utah again in that.
Yeah.
And it's North and South. It's going to be probably Arizona State, but that's going to be another tough game because Arizona State's playing a decent football. I think it's Arizona State. God, I'm way to do research.
I think
it's Bedlam might be a thing. There's just going to be games there that are actually meaningful, worthwhile on December 6th that are going to knock teams out. Ohio State might have to play a tough game in their championship game, although they're playing really well right now. I'm just saying there's a lot of chaos, whereas Notre Dame just sits back and watches and lets the chips fall. And because they don't play an FCS team, they don't play any FCS teams, they're trying to justify not being in a conference championship game. I don't care that they're not in a conference. I just think you have to kind of not pat yourself on the back. You have to say, you know what, we are beneficiaries of this. And no, the country doesn't hate us as a whole because we have way more perks than other teams, especially like a Georgia and an Alabama this year, that are going to probably if Georgia wins, knock Alabama out. And they're probably a top 4 team in the country.
Well, and in that game in particular, I mean, in any football game.
Thanks, Rob.
In any football game, there's a chance of injury. But don't you think there's a chance somebody on Georgia or Alabama could suffer a injury in that game and affect the playoff while Notre Dame's sitting home eating cake or whatever? Also, if you don't want to put into question whether you need a conference championship win or not to be in the playoffs, don't go to overtime with Florida State. Don't beat Toledo by 2. Don't lose to Cincinnati. Simple.
Yeah, and they're good. I mean, don't get me wrong. They've righted their ship. I think they've gotten better as the season has gone on. I just hate seeing this whole world is against us nonsense when they really reap benefits here, especially at the late part of the season.
No doubt. And JP chimed in and said the committee is just letting it work itself out. And that's I don't even jump into this conversation very often because that's what happens. We're talking all this mess, and it might come down to 1 or 2, 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. The rest of it works itself out. I mean, it always has. Maybe it won't this year. I don't know. I tend to think it will. And I even heard somebody say the other day, a talking head that spends hours talking about this. He said, I complained about it. And I complained that this team is 5 or 6 or 4 this week, and it should be 3 or vice versa. He said, but in the end, out of all the playoff teams that have been picked so far, I agree with every one of them. So it's just like, to me, it's like just wasted breath. It's something to argue over. Casey, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. Clemson's out of it this year, so we don't have to argue whether we're 4 or 5 or 6 and should be 5 or 5 and should be 4 or vice versa. And that is a relief, right? That's just a huge relief that you're not sitting on your edge of your couch next week. I didn't even watch the thing last night.
I didn't either.
I heard about it, like I said, from a podcast I listened to this morning. So,
people are complaining about 4-loss Mississippi State being ranked and SEC bias and stuff, and it's like,
I heard that one today too. Yeah, the team that lost to Memphis and who else?
They lost by 40 to Alabama. I don't care who you lose by 40 to. They lost by 40.
But they beat A&M.
And that same argument brought up what I brought up 3 weeks ago. All 3 of Clemson losses are, quote, good losses to ranked teams. Mississippi State lost to Memphis and whoever else, and they're 6-4.
Arkansas.
They're ranked. Yeah. All right, let's get what the people are waiting for. Don't think you could have done any worse if you tried.
Well, I take that as a victory.
These guys are doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty.
I don't like this.
Look, you smell it, the backdoor cover.
All right, well, I cannot get the entry right, but I got the picks intro down. And here's where we are, folks. Overall records, I'm 20-13. Took it in the shorts last week. We call this a locks week. Podcast 20-13 overall, 0-3 last week. Terrible picks, horrible performance. I should be benched. Casey, 16-16-1. He was 2-1 last week, but he had a big beefy bet. Hence the name of the show that garnered him 1,100 or something. I don't remember, something like that. Lots hanging in there. 17.
Okay.
As far as the money goes, Casey was the only one with a winning week last week and gained 1,833 points on me. Now he's only 72. I said points. I should have said bucks. Now he's only 72 bucks behind. Locks has got some big bets coming up, I do believe, to try and make up some ground. We decided we're going to go through the championship game, correct? Look at him celebrating, Locks. Through the championship game.
I lost second least. How about that?
John Chase said it's been a long time since Beef took Rutgers. Whoa!
Maybe in the Big Ten championship game.
Big Ten championship. I'm sorry, that was funny. What are you talking soccer or women's basketball?
Women's soccer, they're very good. They're the 2 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, John Chase, that was funny. All right. Luckily, I'm still in first place by 72 Sluggo bucks, so I get to choose who goes first and last. I'm not going first. Beef, you want to go first or you want to turn it over to Locks?
I'll go first. That's fine.
All right. Go for it, Mr.
My first bet, I'm going to the American Athletic Conference. Our Clemson former co-offensive coordinator, USF, is plus 5.5. They're 2-8? I think Tulane's 1-9.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I like these toilet bowls a lot, although, on the road, tough place to play because, you might get too much red beans and rice before the game. I'm taking USF plus 5.5 points for 500 Sluggo bucks, please.
500 Sluggo bucks. All right. Believing in Jeff Scott and the boys. Good point that the opponent is 1-9. So if anybody can have a worse record than USF, I wonder if will he be on the hot seat next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, if things don't turn around, things don't start looking up. All right, one's in the books from the Beef. Now, Locks, you're up first. You're up next. Where are you going first?
This is where we start making our comeback, boys. Just hang on for the ride here, okay? I'm going to go with Michigan State plus 19 at Ohio State. I feel pretty good about it. Let's just go as the voice goes up.
Sounds like it.
But Ohio State scares the crap out of me at home. I really kind of think they've figured it out. This is the 2 worst passing defenses, believe it or not, in the Big Ten. Michigan actually straight up beat Ohio State in 2015. If you remember the kicker running down the field, waving his arm, going crazy. It was a pretty wild scene. So I don't think Michigan State's going to win, but I think they can keep it inside the number. So put me down for 1,000 Sluggo bucks.
Desperate time calls for desperate.
You ain't seen desperate yet.
I was waiting for this accountant thing,
Yes, I can't wait for the guy with the nerdy glasses to come up behind Locks, push him up. All right, first up for me, last couple of weeks I've gotten away from what's gotten me here, and that's betting against Clemson this year, unfortunately. And when the line came out on Wake Clemson, once it was over 3, I decided I had to take it because that still gives me the out. Clemson can win by a field goal, and I still win this bet. Don't know if that's going to happen. Don't think that's going to happen. But I still have the opportunity to win the bet. And Casey went with 500 Sluggo bucks. So I'm going to go I don't know what the over-under is in Vegas today, but I'm going to go with 500 Sluggo bucks on Wake Forest plus 3.5. I'm hoping Clemson can win by 3. Pick number 2 for the Beefster.
Let's just say Vegas is in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Vegas is in trouble.
Pick number 2, we're going to the upside down cockroach in the SEC. We got Auburn. I locked this game in before the news of Bo Nix being out for the season. Not that I had any confidence in him. I just, it makes for better banter, I think. TJ Finley, LSU transfer, will take over for Bo Nix. I watched him play a couple games last year for LSU. He's serviceable, so maybe plugging him in, it gives you definitely a different element. He's a large human being, and he doesn't have the legs or the scramble ability that Nix has, but he's still pretty fast. So I like Tank Bigsby and 5 other names of guys on Auburn, and they're playing the Gamecocks. So I'm going Auburn minus 10.5 for 500 Sluggo bucks. 500.
I'm sensing a theme here, B. And we made up words here. Scramble ability.
Yeah.
I think
my degree says English. I can make up words.
I think I had some scramble ability eggs this morning. All right, Locks, pick number 2.
This one we're going to go to Oklahoma. Oklahoma locked in at -6. Probably been a little bit of a rough practice week down for Oklahoma. I don't know if there's, I'm sure Lincoln Riley still got his head in the game, even though he's probably had LSU people calling him night and day, probably knocking on his door in the middle of the night. But I think the guy has a lot of pride. There's still a lot to play for. They only have 1 loss. So I know they have Iowa State, pesky Iowa State, that everybody had picked, to finish, was it 4 or 5 earlier in the year?
Well, they got 4 losses.
But they have 4 losses. They started off like
there were 9,
6, didn't they? Yeah. So, I mean, I just think they're going to come back angry. They shouldn't have lost that game. I think they're just going to come back and murder Iowa State here at home. 2,000 Sluggo bucks.
Woo!
Boys.
Big.
We're not done yet.
Well, you only got 6,000 you started with, so I'm guessing that's what 3 is coming next. Yeah, I should have brought that up. Remember, that was one thing. I was terribly wrong on a lot of things this year, the Heisman being one of the many, but I was terribly right on Iowa State. I said this team may end up with 4 losses. They may have 5 or 6. They got 4, and they still got to play. Who they play? Oklahoma. I don't know who the last game is.
It's not an easy one. I looked at it. It's
Kansas State.
Kansas State, is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's something decent.
So they theoretically end up 6-6 after all the preseason love, and we know Texas A&M lost their 3rd last week. How many points did they go? How many places did they move up?
They went out, I'm sure.
Yeah, with their 3rd loss of the season. Okay, Miami. Speaking of picking games before the news comes out, that's one of the bad things about locking in these point spreads on Sunday, is that news comes out afterwards. On both sides of this, news came out after I took Miami -7. First, Miami fired their AD. So I was thinking, what does that mean? Is that good news or bad news for Miami? And then the very next day, as we talked about earlier, Fuente gets fired. So I don't know who's favored, and I have no confidence in this anymore. I just know the last time I saw Virginia Tech play, Casey was throwing his phone because he bet on them against – didn't you bet on them? Against Boston College, maybe? Yeah. Casey was not happy that day, so hopefully I can make the Hokies pay for that, for hurting my friend over there. So I lost a little confidence, fellas. Miami -7. I'm going to go 200 Sluggo bucks on that one. Don't know what's going to happen.
Vegas just perked up. Let's just say
one more pick for Vegas before they get excited. All right, Casey, your 3rd and final pick.
3rd and final pick. I'm going dancing with the girl I brought. I've been an NC State honk most of the season as well. Yeah, it might have been one with BC on the BC side, but anyway, NC State has been in my bets for the majority of the year. They're at home versus Syracuse this weekend. They're looking to put it on Syracuse. They have to take care of their business so that they have a chance in the ACC Atlantic Division. I'm going NC State -11.5 points. for 2,500 Sluggo bucks.
Oh,
I'm coming back, and I'm going to make a statement this weekend.
I think that ties the all-time high bet on an individual game, which might last for exactly one pick. I've got a feeling. I've got a
what
feeling.
Are you saying?
I'm saying Locks, your third pick is next.
All right, last pick is Notre Dame, the aforementioned Notre Dame that we spoke of and ripped on. I like them here. 17-point favorites at home versus Georgia Tech, who's terrible, whose coach may be on the hot seat also. Transitive property tells me that Notre Dame beat Virginia last week at Virginia and stomped them. Virginia is better than Georgia Tech, therefore Notre Dame wins by 30 per the Beef. Notre Dame's also covered 5 in a row. I like them again. I'm going to bet $2,501. I had 2,500 written down.
All right.
So I got to one-up my guy.
All right. I like it. There's some competition going on here, and it's about to ramp up, fellas. All right. My third and final pick. Look, I told Beef before you came on.
I got to tune in here, Marty. Explain this to me.
I'm struggling, and I came up here and just stared at this thing all day today, thinking, who do I pick? And I went from one team to another, to the other team, back to the other. There was mismatch of information. It was conflicting. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Then I looked in there and I saw Michigan was playing Maryland. And I said, Michigan's going to beat Maryland. But is Michigan going to beat Maryland by 15? I knew you were going big this week, and I knew Beef was all proud of his 1,112 Sluggo Bucks win last week. So I figured he'd go big. So I said, he's right on my butt, and I've got to do something to show him that I mean business. So I think this is the third money line I've taken the whole year. I won one at Michigan State at Miami. I lost one a couple of weeks ago. But this is the first one I've taken as a favorite. Mm-hmm. So to pay you guys back for that, I've got to go big here to make some bucks. So I'm going to go, let's see.
He's doing math.
Where's that guy I sent you guys on the text with all the numbers floating around his head? That's me this week. I'm going to go Michigan money line, and screw you guys and your little chumpy 2,500.
Here we go.
7,000 Sluggo bucks on Michigan money line.
You got to do it to win the $1,000. You got to do it,
right?
He's not losing. That's a yeah. He won. He won $1,000. That's what he just did.
Woo! Where's that Ric Flair when I need him? Where's that Ric Flair when I need him? I think
Locks would put 7,001 on his, but he doesn't have it in the bank.
Don't have it.
I was either here's the deal, guys. I was either going to go like real large, which I did, or I was going to go real small, like $7 and win a penny or something.
Right.
That's why I wanted to go last to see what you guys do. But it's been a while, so I need to remind you guys.
Oh, kiss your boots if you can do it. But to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. And
Pooler, Georgia.
I'm the man. Man! Woo!
Of course that graphic works. Of course.
It should say, yes, of course that one works. It should say Kyle, Texas. Now, I haven't updated it yet. I was too busy dancing on your grave. All right, here now watch Maryland win. And okay, that'd be just great. Here is here are the picks. Marty, Wake plus 3.5, minus 112 for 500 Sluggo bucks. Miami -7, minus 106 juice, 200 Sluggo bucks, and Michigan on the money line minus 700 for 7,000 Sluggo bucks. It's going to be a while for either one of you can break that record. Beef Auburn minus 10.5, minus 10.5, minus 114 for 500 Sluggo. NC State minus 11.5, minus 112 for 2,500 Sluggo bucks. South Florida plus 5.5, minus 110, 500 Sluggo bucks. Locks, Oklahoma minus 6, minus 108, 2,000 Sluggo bucks. Michigan State plus 19, minus 110 for 1,000 Sluggo bucks. He got cute. He thought he was going to have the record. He had it for about 8 seconds. Notre Dame minus 17, minus 112, 2,501 Sluggo bucks. Now, Beef, you put in a little note on the chopping beef tomorrow. Doesn't sound like you're going to be chopping any beef.
It's a game time decision. If I can get the slider to sleep by 8:05, then we'll have it. If I can't, we won't. So daddy duty tomorrow night. But we'll see, because next Thursday I'm busy, so it's going to be a good break for chopping beef if there is no show tomorrow. So we're going to try, but we'll see what happens. Game time decision. Stay tuned to your local chopping, or what is it called? Social medias.
You're on top of it. And Nelson chimes in. Good to see you, Nelson. That's a lot of Sluggo capital on Captain Gabby Pants. That's a little scary. I didn't even think about it in that way. All they got to do is win, though, Nelson. All they got to do is win. Over on Seldom Used. Oh, go ahead, Case.
I was just going to say I'm going to be buying Maryland gear if they win. just
and shipping it to Kyle, Texas. Over on seldomusedreserve.com, John Chancey and I are struggling to get a top 5 every week because nobody wants to be, number 5. Apparently, Cincinnati can't beat a crappy team by more than 10 points in the fourth quarter, and all kinds of shenanigans happening. We pretty much, we know number 1. That's about where we are after that. But our top 5 is there. John Chancey emails me Monday, I think it was, and said, and the title of his email was 3,764 words. He wrote about DJ and Clemson and the cautionary tale of some superstars that you've never heard of again. So a great read. Nelson was just talking about it before the show to me, saying it was a good read. He thought I wrote it, and I took credit for it for about a half hour. I finally told him that, no, that was John Chancey's doing. Great article, John. I appreciate you for taking the time to write those and work with me on seldomusedreserve.com. And it looks like Casey may have 2 cents tomorrow to add to seldomusedreserve.com, but we may or may not have a chopping beef to talk about or to put up on the site. Casey, thank the people, and let's get out of here.
Thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help, John Chancey for all his work, and all those words on seldomusedreserve.com. Everyone on Seldom Used Reserve Sluggo Podcast, each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. On behalf of Zach Locks Parker, Marty Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Creek, and thanks so much for listening. We'll see you right here next week on Sluggo.
Good to see you, Locks. Thanks to everybody for helping the vets out. Till next week or till next show. Later.
I think that sounds pretty good.